Well, hello there, my dear friend. Welcome once again to Blind Dad Does.
Welcome back, friend. I knew this day would come.
Thank you. Yes, interesting. My thing was severely delayed there. Let me turn my light on so you guys can see my pretty face, my prettified face, whatever that may be. Anyways, hello and welcome to Blind Dad Does. My name is Ira, and I hope that you're having a very, very good day. Today has been a weird one, and I decided that I am going to do another little bit of a stream for you guys. I'm going to raise my camera up just a little bit because you guys don't need to be staring at my hairy chest. It's a little bit better, maybe. There we go. I hate accidentally bumping my camera because then I have to try to adjust it on the fly. Yes, adjust it on the fly. Anyways, figured I'd come on and just do a little bit of chatting with you guys because, well, that's who I am. That's what I like to do, and kind of get a little bit weird with you guys. How's that? So, who's listening? Who's out there? Hello? Anybody out there? Or am I talking into the void or something along those lines? I don't know. Who knows? But that's okay. So anyways, today has been an interesting day. We had a pretty yummy dinner, and well, it's been a day. It's been one of those. Hey, Boop. Hello, Ollie. How you doing? You're over there arting. Are you having fun with your arting? I did some art earlier tonight. It turned out kind of interesting. I don't know. Maybe something will come out of it. I don't know. You am. That's good. Finishing Sonia's thingy. That's good. For those that are not aware, Sonia is Simply2 over there on Twitch, and definitely a really great streamer. If you guys have never checked her and Tom out, you definitely should. They're very entertaining, very cool, very, very lovely people, to say the least. So anyways, I turned the music up. I don't know. For some reason, my music isn't playing. Why are you not playing? What the heck kind of music is this? That is not the music I wanted. There we go. That's a little bit better. Anyway, it must fit a mood, right? I have had a pain day today, unfortunately, and it's probably because we had quite a bit of inclement weather going through our area here today, and well, kind of like over this whole weekend. It is due. I need to raise my microphone a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. This might get a little bit loud and weird to hear. Nope, it didn't make any weird noises. Okay, that's good. That is good. Okay, I didn't expect this music either, but it's fine. I'll run with it. It's good. It's fine. Anyway, they are very kind people over there. Simply2 over on Twitch. I definitely support them, and you guys should too. But anyways, I've had this pain day going on. For those of you guys not aware, I do have arthritis in multiple spots on my body. I also have fibromyalgia, and I'm blind on top of it. Yes, I know. I'm just an old guy over here complaining about his pain. But that's okay. That's okay. It happens. However, all that being said, I'm still here, and I'm still trying to have a good night, and hopefully you guys are too. So pain is definitely a thing. Pain is a pain. It's always all kinds of fun, isn't it? But we'll get by. We'll get by. I'll be on here for as long as my body will tolerate. So, earlier today, yeah, like I said, I was kind of doing this art stream, and it turned out really good, I think. I had a lot of fun doing it. Had some people tuning in to watch it and everything. Got some really nice feedback. I might start doing that a little bit more frequently, actually, because art is definitely something for me that I have a passion for. I started doing art stuff like 14, 15 years ago. I didn't really do it before then. I kind of tried to draw a little bit here and there, like sketchbook kind of things. And I mean, did okay for somebody that never practiced with it or anything, I guess. But I started doing photography. And for me, that was like a big channel point for my creativity. So like I've been a writer my whole life. That's something that I've always had like my deepest passion for, is to do writing. And not only to write myself, but also to help other people become writers too. Because, you know, the advantage of being aged and experienced is that we get to pass on our knowledge to those that have not, right? So I always try to help people out with anything along those lines that I can. But I need to turn this down just a little bit. It's a little distracting to me. Okay. Anyways, but photography was like a big touchstone for me, and I delved into it hard. So it was kind of interesting because I didn't have the best camera. In fact, I didn't realize it at the time. I had actually bought it used, but I didn't realize it at the time. I had the original, the first commercially available digital camera that was made by Kodak. I got a hold of one of those on the cheap, and I started using it. And it wasn't the best, you know, it wasn't the best by any means, but it was good enough to allow me to explore my creativity, and I could come up with some very unique sort of things. So I had people that were models for me, up to and including my wife Jolene, and the thing that was interesting for me was trying to explore how to make things look the way that I wanted them to look without doing any kind of adjustments to it. So at the time, like Photoshop was out and all that kind of stuff, right? But at the time, I couldn't afford any of that. So I needed to try to figure out ways to make the art what I wanted it to be without doing heavy duty work to it, you know, like minimal amounts of adjusting on digital kind of means. So I would use like everything that I could. I would hold lamps in my feet as I'm laying on the ground trying to, holding the lamp up in the air with my feet as I'm trying to get like the perfect camera angle. And, you know, I would literally use everything, including the kitchen sink, trying to get the best shot for my from my models, you know, trying hard to keep them from laughing their asses off the whole time that they're trying to, you know, be serious for the picture. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like I have probably a good 10 to 12,000 stock images that I have on my various hard drives from that era, just so that I can make use of them in different ways, you know? So, once I did get a hold of like Photoshop, I think Photoshop is what I got a hold of first. And then I started using things like GIMP and that kind of thing just to, try to make things work. But I got into doing, photo manipulations, you know, combining photos together and, you know, making them, become something different through the combo. And, that was a lot of fun for me too. I enjoyed doing that. But, I wanted to do more, you know, like I wanted to do as much for myself as I could without, again, hurting myself in the process, you know? So I started getting into digital painting, and it was primarily through Photoshop that I was doing it. And so for the first few years of doing digital painting, I did nothing but a mouse. Like, so for instance, Ollie, I know you're doing painting. Just imagine trying to do the painting that you're doing with a mouse. Like, that's what I had to do for a long time. And I did it, right? But like, I definitely have carpal tunnel from that set of experiences. But it was fun, you know, it was fun for me. And it was interesting to explore like what I could do, what I could get to come out in the end. And and it was very enjoyable for me. But I need to AFK just real quick. Give me just a brief moment. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to rescue the cat at the doorway. So Ollie, yeah, that is turning out amazing. Now imagine doing that with a mouse. Seriously, not easy to do. Not easy to do. And although I could do it, you know, I got used to doing it and I could make things come out as I wanted them to come out. It was still very difficult. But what I ended up doing for myself, probably one of the best gifts that I could give myself, was I took some money from paychecks that I was making, and I got myself a Wacom tablet. So that was where things really opened up for me in a big way. I had I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was an Intuos Graphire. It was like a big 16-inch one. Like it was one of the top models at that time. And again, granted, this was like 15 years ago, so you know, way old versions, right? But I needed to get something that was a larger size because I'm not a small guy. I'm 6 foot tall. So me trying to use the little small ones, my hands are pretty big. So using the little small ones is nigh on impossible for me. So I had to get something that was a bigger size. And I actually had that tablet and still used it up until like just a couple of years ago. And I loved it. Like, it was a really great investment. And once I got a hold of that, that's when my artwork really started to take a turn, you know, like I could really start doing some really cool things with it that I wanted to do. And then my vision started to descend into madness. For someone who has a passion about art, losing the vision, you know, losing the one thing that you really, really need to do digital paintings, digital manipulation, so on and so forth, losing the one thing that you need for that, is rather heartbreaking. I won't deny I was very much in a dark space for a while because of it. But thankfully I had the love and patience of my wife to help me get through the worst moments of it, you know? This music is definitely not fitting the conversation here. That's okay. We'll run with it. You know, when you're in a position in your life where you're trying to do creative things and you lose like the main thing that you're doing the creative things with, trying to figure out how to readjust or retune yourself from that kind of a situation is a little difficult. I'm going to take a drink here real quick. And take some ibuprofen. Fistfuls of ibuprofen. Gotta love it. Anyways. So I've had to I had to come to terms with the fact that my eyesight is not going to change for the better. The only option that I have at this point in time is to do corneal transplants. And the risk that comes with that kind of a thing is problematic at best. My vision is 20/3600 in my good eye with the glasses on, and the glasses are basically useless. I mean, I know I wear them, but I've been wearing glasses since I was about 7 years old, and they're more habitual, more of a comfort item than anything. They don't do anything to actually change my vision other than removing a little bit of blur. But blur is not what my problem is. It's not like it's nearsightedness or something like that. Blur is actually the least amount of things that I have to deal with. But it does like help slightly, you know what I mean? But 20/3600 in the good eye after having the corrections done. I've tried to do contacts. With the disorder that I have, one of the solutions is to try to do basically they're called RGPs, a specific type of hard contact that you can use to try to maintain the structure of the cornea. My eyes failed to accept it, like in a big way. Anytime that I tried to do any kind of contacts, my eyes are super, like they're hypersensitive to anything touching them. So the contacts were actually causing me a lot of agony. So that didn't work. Another option was to do a surgery called cross-linking, where they essentially put in rods into the cornea to try to give it some structure. And unfortunately, by the time that I went to get the how do I want to put this? The approval, I guess that's the best way to put it. To have the cross-linking done, my corneas were too thin to be able to handle that surgery. So that one was out. So basically, by the time everything's said and done, all of the solutions that could possibly help somebody with my condition are out the window for me. And the only thing that remains is to have corneal transplants done. The problem with that is that I was told by the best guy, that it would improve my vision by about 10%. So 10% above what I have currently is not really that much of a difference, to be honest with you, because I'm at the end stage with this disease. So 10% is not much of an improvement, but it would also come with a lot of risks and a lot of problems as well. So I would have to be on anti-rejection drugs for the rest of my life to make sure that my corneas remained in place. I would have to have cataract surgery every year to help with the fact that the steroids that I would have to take, like the steroid drops and stuff, in order to keep the corneal transplant healthy, would cause cataracts that would have to be surgically removed every year. I would run the risk of going completely black blind, losing my vision entirely in either one or both eyes because of failure And I would also run the risk of the cornea, the transplant itself, failing by touching my eye in the wrong way or sleeping on it wrong, or I mean, any other number of things that can happen, right? So for me personally, now I know other people that have had the transplants done and it's been successful, and more power to them. Great. I'm glad that it did. But for me, I have to consider the risk versus reward, and the risk that would come with such a small reward to me is not worthwhile trying to do. So it's kind of like stick with the devil that you know, stick with the devil that you know, because this is what you've learned to function with, So going back to the art issue, when my vision issues really started kicking in, because I went from being able to like see reasonably, being able to drive, being able to do for myself, so on and so forth, to having what I've got currently within about 6 months worth of time. So it's like I woke up one day and it just started snowballing downhill. I gave up art for a while, because when I would sit and try to do something, if I drew a line, for instance, that line would become 100, all superimposed over each other, all of them warped into different directions and doing different things just from that one line. That doesn't count all the other lines that are there and all the other things that are going on and so on and so forth, and that's not very doable, that's not very doable in the long run. Potatoes. Hey. Sure. Absolutely. What about the A10 Warthog? I will tell you something interesting. The place that I lived, we're about 20 miles away from it at this point, but the place that I grew up and lived for most of my life, has a, air base that is primarily devoted to the A10 Warthogs. So, oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh shoot. Can you hit the up button and have it come back and maybe hit the Control A to select all and then Control C to copy it, and you can break it down into the smaller texts? Shoot, I'm sorry to hear that. Dang it. I was just talking about the art stream that I did earlier tonight. The A10 Thunderbolt II, also known as the A10 Warthog, is a plane that was built atop of the GAU-8 Avenger 30mm cannon. This cannon had the ability to fire over 3,000 rounds per minute, making this the fastest gun to ever be shot. The bullets surpass the speed of sound, which means you will hear the bullets hit before a sound is produced. If you are a frontline armor for American allies, the sound may come as a saving grace. The A10 Thunderbolt II has been in service since the 10th of May. I'm assuming there's going to be more to it. I think the Warthog is probably one of the most interesting aerial vehicles that we've ever created. It's really, really cool, and it looks awesome, and it's like some of the capabilities of it are super, super awesome. Okay, since the 10th of May 1972, meaning that this fighter jet has been used for over 40 years. The A-10 is losing superiority to the F-35, which is the newest and most advanced jet in the U.S. Air Force. Wish Australia had some. Yeah. I will tell you, the F-35, one of the interesting things with the F-35 is that it has been kind of like one of those spectacular failures for a long time. And I hope that they can get a lot of the kinks and bugs worked out on it. But it's like, for a while, I think they've gotten past this point now, but for a long while, it was having so many issues that it couldn't even like turn at all. That's kind of a problem when you've got a jet and you can't get it to turn at all. Yeah, I mean, that's the plan, that it's due to replace the A-10, but I honestly don't know if they're ever going to actually get the A-10 to be replaced. It's a powerhouse kind of a vehicle that is super reliable and is, I think, again, probably one of the best, mechanically speaking, unique aircrafts that are in the world. It's really, really cool. At least Australia has some F-35s. Yeah. Maybe it's the F-50 that I'm thinking of is the one that they've been having issues with. Which one is it that they've been developing like for, gosh, it's been like 15 years almost or more. And they've just poured like billions of dollars into it, and it's gone nowhere. Is it maybe it's the F-51? Is that the one? No, that's the Mustang. Shoot, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've done the radio shows, and I talked about it a couple of times on the radio shows. So do you Potatoes, do you like to fly? Just out of curiosity. I have actually never flown. I've never flown, not once in my life. They're only replacing the A-10 with the F-35 because of the tech in the F-35, because of the heat guiding missiles that countries use now. Yeah, gotcha. Wanting to get into the Air Force. Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. Well, good luck to you. Definitely. I've never flown once in my life. I think flying is weird. At least commercial flying anyways. You're in this jet with somebody that you don't know, up in the front of the, vehicle, and you're going along at the speed of sound practically, there's hundreds of miles per hour, flying around in this big metal cigar, hoping that everything stays up in the air. You know what I mean? Since the A-10 doesn't really have countermeasures towards missiles, but the F-35 does. Right. Yeah. And that's why, I think if I remember right, with the A-10, some of the sorties that they did, they would actually have, secondary vehicles going with them to do cover fire. Again, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a little while since I've looked into things along those lines, but they're really cool vehicles, though. Really cool. I love the way they look. They look really, really awesome. Very intimidating, to say the least. I'm joking about the flying thing, by the way. Like, if people enjoy flying, that's for them. But I'm kind of like, I would be sort of like Mr. T on the A-Team shows, where if they had to fly him anywhere, they had to knock him out with drugs before they got him onto the plane. that would have to be me. I don't fly. So anyways, what I was just finishing my thought from earlier, what I was going to say is that I've had to find ways to facilitate doing the artwork that I want to do, while at the same time finding inspiration. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's a little bit difficult. So, like the sound the cannon makes. Yeah. They do sound quite badass. That's for sure. They're very loud. Like I said, we have like where I grew up, has an air base connected to the international airport that's here. And so the A10 is, I think actually it's only one of 2 places in the country here that like has the primary focus as the A10. There's like maybe one other airbase that actually also has a A10 focus, but I don't remember for sure. I know this one was the only one for a long time. And so they would like we'll hear them, you know, take off and do their thing and do the aerial maneuvers and stuff. And well, those things are loud. Don't have an airbase in the States, so I'll have to fly overseas to like Darwin, Perth, or is that New South Wales? Just making sure for my training. I definitely wish you the best of luck. I think that people that yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking it was. My brain farted for a moment there, and I was like, is that no? That is right. Yeah. I think that people that want to get into the Air Force and stuff like that, it's a cool job. You know, it's got to be one of the coolest things ever to do. Even if you don't do the flying yourself, it's still got to be really, you know, exciting and cool to do that particular branch of the military. I joined the Army, the U.S. Army, when I was 19, and I was due to board the bus to go to boot when they gave me a medical discharge. So I didn't end up actually going in, but I did sign up and I was ready to go. But you know, people that want to do the military service and stuff, more power to you, you know. I wish you the best of luck, and it's not easy. It's not an easy job, that's for sure. But the Air Force in particular, I think would be really cool. I avoided the Air Force though, because again, I don't like flying. So, and I didn't do the Navy because, you know, if you're not like officers, you know, you're probably going to be scraping down the everything. Didn't want to go there. Although I like boats, you know, I like doing out on the ocean and everything. But I did the Army because it had the best, I think, benefits package at that time. Like again, this was many years ago, you know, and at the time I think they had the best package that was available for me, so I chose that one. But it's cool. It's cool. I ended up getting in the medical discharge, and I was kind of surprised that it came through. They told me that based upon like what they were seeing with me, that they weren't sure if I would be able to go to boot. But they gave me the tickets, you know, they gave me everything. Basically all the stuff was in place. I was gone, you know, I was getting ready to step onto the bus, and that's when they came up with the discharge. So, it happens, but I was all for it. You know, I was all for it. Very cool experience in the life though. But the main reason why I joined though was because, get a Camaro in the U.S. Army. I don't think so. I think that, there's different like benefit packages and that kind of thing that you can get, depending on what you sign up for and what you're going to be doing and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, the pay rate, can definitely get you to afford a Camaro if you really want to try it. But they don't just hand you one. No. But my first wife was pregnant at the time that, I joined, and I did it because I needed to figure out a way to support this burgeoning family that I had going on. And so I didn't see any other options before me at that moment in time. So I thought that it was the best that I could do for her and for my kiddo. And then I got the medical discharge, you know, and so I was like, okay, well, I mean, I guess I'm not meant for this, so I'll have to figure out something else. And that's when I got into doing computer repair work and stuff. I got my A+ certification and my net certification, Microsoft certification. I got a lot of different certs, and so I opened a computer repair business of my own that I called Gigabyte Computers. And I liked doing that. It was a lot of fun for me. But by the time that I started it, I had already divorced the first wife and moved on to the second wife. The second wife was very abusive. So I ended up folding the company because everything that I was making, she was turning around and spending. So I wasn't able to put anything into the company to make it grow because, I'd bring home, $1,400, $1,500, and the money would go into the bank and it would instantly disappear because she was spending so much. She was doing thousands of dollars in overdraft fees every month. So why spend literally my life killing myself trying to get this business going when it's going to go nowhere because the money is just disappearing into the void, So I got away from doing that, and I still ended up working with computers, but what I did was I started at a company that did tech desk help kind of a style. Did I work at Gigabyte? No. My company was called Geekabyte, not Gigabyte. So I started working for a company that did tech help over the phones for a specific computer brand. And I became the manager of training. So I was responsible to train all of the people, getting them A+ certified in computers. And that was a very interesting experience. I did that for a while and really liked doing it. But the company started to, I guess, go downhill a little bit. It wasn't selling as well as like HP and Asus and that kind of thing was. So we could tell that they were kind of backstepping a bit from the market, like from as much as they were doing. And they weren't all that great computers to begin with, honestly. They were, user level, very baseline PCs that we would get calls about all the time for the tech help, So I moved away from there and I went to a different company. It was a factory that needed an IT person. So I started doing the IT work for this factory, and my main responsibility was making sure that the company was ready for Y2K. So this was way back in the day. I had to rescue them from Y2K. I had to save them from the apocalypse, basically. So I did that, and it was a fun job. It was good, but I had to string LAN wire from like one side of the factory to the other, and it was a big factory. So I'm standing up on top of these, basically the pickers, that are holding you up in the air by like 40 feet, and hoping that the guy riding the forklift below was paying attention and wouldn't bump me around too much as I'm way up high in the air and not wanting to tip over and all that kind of stuff, trying to string this LAN wire across the factory. Lots of fun, but that job like lasted for more than a year, but then by the time that I got done making sure that they were Y2K compliant and everything, I was told that I would be having job security afterwards. And then after I did all the work to make sure that they were surviving after the apocalypse, they let me go. They downsized my position, and the manager of the place decided that he was going to be the one to take care of everything, even though he didn't know nothing about computers. Smart guy. So they downsized me and I had to move on to something else. So sure. So basically what it comes down to is this. For a long time, like, computers have actually been around for a really long time. Like, the first computers were really starting to get developed in the 50s. And technically speaking, they were even around during World War II, if you want to go with the fact that the computer systems, quote unquote, back then were more based on paper and cards than anything. But still, the idea was the same. It was all binary code that was making sure that everything worked. And that's how the Nazis kept track of the Jews, by the way. It was IBM that did it. So computer systems started getting developed, and in a computer, you have your baseline operating system that is not, like, if you're using Windows, then, you know, Windows is your operating system, right? If you're using a Mac, then your OS2 and all that kind of stuff is your operating system for Apple products, right? But lower than that, there is another operating system that's inherent to the hardware on the computer, and that is what's called BIOS. This BIOS is what keeps track of the actual, like, the way the CPU is working, the way the motherboard is working, the way that the memory is working, and all of them working in tandem together. All of the things basically go through BIOS, which then feeds its information to your operating system, such as Windows, so that it can know what to do. Okay, so I hope that all that makes sense. So when computers were first starting to really get developed and starting to become more of a public kind of a thing, as opposed to a military, which is what they were to begin with, the systems, their that baseline operating system was not prepared to. Okay, so let's say, for instance, okay, I'm just going to give you this for instance. It was not prepared to handle the difference between 1971 and 2071. To it only existed as 71. Okay. So if you had someone's financial data installed on this system, and you had, like, their birthday, for instance, as one of the triggers for this person's data, you know, to be accessed or something like that, their birthday might have been 1971, but then when Y2K happened and the computer would not be able to recognize between 1971 and 2071, it would fail. It would crash the system, basically. So the concern with Y2K was that most computer systems were not prepared, were not at that baseline level capable of understanding the difference between the millennia. You see what I mean? So the worry, and whether it was founded or unfounded, the worry was that if January 1st, 2000 hit, that any computer systems that had not been prepared ahead of time to handle that changeover from 1999 to 2000, because it would go from 99 to 00, right? It would essentially cause all software, all things to crash. So the hype fear was that all the financial systems in the world were going to crash down. All of the medical systems of the world were going to crash down. That we were going to end up into a major apocalypse of our own making, because we were so dependent on these computer systems that just could not handle being changed over. So what people like me had to do was go through all of these different computers that we were responsible for, and either update the hardware or update the software to be able to handle this changeover happening between the one millennia to the next. So that's kind of a basic a basic overview of what it was all about. I will say most computers that were kind of built within 10 years or so of Y2K happening would have been able to handle it with no problem. And that would be like most systems out there, right? But there were still a lot of hospitals, a lot of factories, a lot of, older places were still actually using equipment that was years old. They'd never upgraded it for years. So like the factory that I worked at, for instance, some of its computer systems, the secretary was using, the manager was using, all that kind of stuff. Their computer systems were already basically Y2K compliant. I needed to upgrade some of the hardware a little bit here and there, but that was more for just making sure that the computer systems themselves were more up to date, because they were not running very well at that time, I guess you could say, because they were already on the older side, right? So, but the problem is that like most of the equipment that the factory itself was using, so like the factory itself was a cardboard manufacturer. So the different tool and die machines that they were using to cut the cardboard into the shapes that it needed to be, they were using like you would have a CAD program create the die, and then the computer system would program that into the cutter so that then the cutter could actually cut the cardboard into whatever design it was supposed to do. Okay. Those factory machines, those big cutters, were not Y2K compatible. So if again that machine was not updated for Y2K, then on January 1st, 2000, it would stop working. It would no longer work. It would recognize the correct timekeeping thing that was necessary. I hope all that makes sense. That was the problem, is that so many other essential things like dams, for instance. One of the problems was, I think if I remember right, the Hoover Dam had computer systems that operated the dam, right? But they were so old that they had to be updated in a really big way, because if they weren't, then they would no longer be able to control what the dam did or didn't do. Like they would lose control over like the lifting mechanisms and so on and so forth to release water or to stop it, from flowing and all that kind of stuff. It would have been a mess, it would have been a real mess, to say the least. So I had a fun job, doing all of that. It was interesting to me. Although it was very dirty. It was a very dirty job because, of course, working in a cardboard factory, I'm up in the ceiling area all the time, where it had never been cleaned, like ever. And I'm a germaphobe, right? So like for me being up in there, it was a little rough sometimes. I didn't care for it a whole lot sometimes, but, I did it, right? I did it. So I was pretty much fearing that the difference of December 31st, 1999 and January 1st, 2000 would mess with the computer's binary, and it would like fail and break computer systems. Right. Exactly. That the operating systems themselves would fail at the baseline because that hardware wasn't capable of recognizing the difference between one millennia and another. And that was like, you could say that was short-sighted, and you wouldn't be wrong. It was very short-sighted of the people who were creating like the hardware during that era, that they didn't recognize that this might be a problem coming up. But honestly, it wasn't really all that far away from the 90s when computers started to become a little bit more mainstream. I mean, I didn't get my first PC system until the 90s myself. And before that, like, the user, okay, so like the consumer level, and I'm talking about like people like you and me, right? People that are out in the open market, not talking about like businesses or medical industry or things like that, right? But the consumer level type goods, computers weren't really a thing until the late 80s. And even then, the computer systems were exorbitantly expensive. Like, your average person was definitely not using one, right? And then, like, it wasn't until like starting in the early 90s that it started to really get cheaper for people to buy them, you know, just because, you know. So, hey, Junior, let's go buy you a computer or whatever, you know. It became more of a possibility during that time. So people didn't really like expect that computers were going to be the thing that they became, you know? So I guess it's kind of like it was a mentality that, well, this is going to fail anyways, so why worry about it? You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. On most computer systems, like the average person's computer system at home, was already like updated and okay with it. Like there wasn't really anything that they needed to do. But it's these other industrial kind of machines that were reliant on computer systems that were created years before the more popularized computers. Like they were using computer systems, for instance, like operating systems and that kind of thing, that were from like the 70s and the 80s, you know, up to the year 2000. So they were using things that were like, you know, 20 and 30 years old. Those machines just weren't built with the idea in mind that, hey, we're going to have to worry about this next millennium, you know? So they would have basically crashed and burned, you know, on the day of the changeover, really. If they tried to switch them on, the operating system would crash. It would not function at all. So yeah, it was a bit of a mess, you know. The average person, it wouldn't have had any impact on, but at least as far as their own computer systems goes. But it would have been a matter of the financial industry itself would have had issues. The medical industry would have had issues. The manufacturing industry definitely would have had issues, because that's where most of the non-compliance with it was kicked in, was with the manufacturing industry. They'd still been using things that had been around for years and years, and just never updated them because it wasn't really economically viable at the time to do it. If it worked, why upgrade it? You see what I mean? So a lot of the manufacturing facilities would have basically shut down, and they would have had to completely revamp all of the hardware just to get it to function again, really. So it would have been a mess. Less of a problem for consumers, but more of a problem for, say, the Defense Force. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Although I will say the Defense Force, as far as defense goes, like one thing to bear in mind is that at least in America, the military is years ahead of what anybody has on a consumer level. Like some people in some categories, they're even upwards of 50 years ahead of what consumers are able to get a hold of. So they were pretty well prepped anyways, you know. So as far as defense goes, that wasn't too big of a deal. That wasn't too big of an issue. NORAD, I don't think would have been a problem either, because NORAD, again, was like very reliant on modernization of things, you know. Like it needed to have everything updated all the time. Like that they were the first to get any kind of upgrades that would have come down the pike us consumers wouldn't have seen the same kind of upgrades for years afterwards. I hope that makes sense. Oh, no. No, they're well past anything along those lines. They're not even, I mean, like, okay, some of the military tech uses like Windows and Mac and that kind of stuff, right? But like the very dependent, I don't want to say dependent, the very critical, that's what I'm trying to find. The very critical type of machinery is not run on anything that we really currently have. Like their Windows, for instance, has so many built-in problems that to use Windows systems in a mission critical top secret sort of an organization would be the worst failure they could ever do. Somebody like your average hacker could just walk right through the door and get any data off of it that they wanted to. So they have to use things that are a lot more advanced than what we currently have available. They may use Windows. Some of them may use Windows, but they're very heavily modified Windows. So like I said, it just depends on where defense, industry wise you're talking. Like some like your average like administration kind of things are probably using something along those lines, but again, they're very firewalled too. So I mean, probably something along those lines. Yeah. I mean, like Microsoft's currently working on Windows 11, right? But the military, like the operating systems that the military uses for some of their other things, are more specialized, developed for whatever thing you're looking at, right? So like jets, for instance, air control, all that kind of stuff. They're not using Windows, they're using something else, like an operating system that's specialized for that particular thing. Special built, I guess is the best way to put it, for that one particular thing. And a lot of the stuff is built in such a way that it's like isolated network wise, or at least capable of being isolated network wise. If they need to like cut it off from intrusion from outside, there's easy ways to do it. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like what we have like on a consumer level is a lot different than what's available, even like if you dig into things even deeper, because you have things like the dark web, which is completely different than what you have with the regular internet. That's a whole different animal altogether, and takes more specialized software and that kind of thing to get into. The one problem, if you go to something like I think it's Norse, I'm trying to remember, is it Norse.com? Let me see here. Give me just a second here. Yeah, norsenet.com. That's what I'm trying to think of. If you go to norsenet.com or Norse Corp, I think it's Norse Corp. Let me see. Nope, wrong one. Norsenet.com. Yeah, Norsenet. You can see, like on a real-time basis, different DDoS attacks that are happening worldwide, trying to like break into one thing or another, or trying to stop software from functioning, so on and so forth. You can kind of see a real-time map of where these kind of things are occurring. So what we have is like a situation where there are different countries that are trying to attack the United States, for instance, in different ways. One of my concerns, for instance, is that, one of these days, something like hackers in China, working on like the behalf of the Chinese military, for instance, being able to basically hack into things like the power grid and just shutting it down. Our power grid, for instance, here in the United States is so tenuous that at one point in time, not really all that long ago, the whole eastern seaboard was shut down because of a squirrel getting into the wrong spot. That's how like out of date and too interconnected everything really is. So if someone were to get into the right spot and trigger the right kind of thing, they could shut down the whole country. Like just done, so there are different protocols that are in place for these like large scale server farms and so on and so forth. They're not using something like Windows. They're using a very specialized set of software and tools that are separate from anything else. Because again, Windows has its inherent problems that it has these built-in back doors that people can just walk right through if they know what they're doing. Mac OS has some of the same issues. It's like you have to build things much more specialized when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Again, like you might see Windows and that kind of thing being used in certain aspects, but it's not the prime operating systems that are being used on these more specialized areas. You're not going to see it because it's not secure enough, you see. So when you're dealing with things that are very top level security stuff, they're not going to use a consumer level operating system for it. They might use something that's got it as a base. So for instance, they might use Windows Net, or something like that, where it's a different operating system altogether, a whole different framework altogether that has maybe similarities in UI or the GUI that's involved. But it's not the same at its core. Like its heart is not actually the same. I hope that makes sense. Like they're two different operating systems that don't interact together. The databasing and that kind of thing is built differently with heavy duty security in mind. So I hope that all that makes sense. It's a little, it's a bit messy, you know what I mean? But that's really what it comes down to. The study of military tech is definitely one of my interests. I dig down into some of the different things that the military has done, and the funding that the military has gotten hold of to do some of this stuff. Some of the Black Ops funding is pretty interesting. So I mean, Microsoft may have made parts of it. Like the one thing to bear in mind with the military, and this is with the United States. I don't know how it is with everywhere else, but I assume it's probably pretty close. Okay. It's all about compartmentalization. Okay. So let me give you an example of compartmentalization when it comes to this kind of stuff. Okay. Let's say in a manufacturing aspect of things. Let's say that the military wants to develop a certain piece of hardware. Okay. They will go to one company and they will tell the company, okay, we need a part that's going to be able to do X thing. And so they will contract out that company to make X thing. They will develop it, they will manufacture it, and they will then sell it to the military under this contract. Okay. Then they will go to a different company altogether, and they will tell that different company, okay, we need Y thing created, and we need this many of them, right? So that company then will develop Y thing, and it will manufacture it, and it will sell it to the military. Okay. So they will do this for all the different components that are going to go into whatever piece of hardware they're going to be creating. The military is, okay. The different components that the military is going to be making use of. But they don't hire one company to then like put it all together, right? They don't have one company that's going to create the whole thing. They do compartmentalization so that no one company knows how to get into that piece of hardware in its entirety, right? So they do that as a matter of security. Like there's an inherent security to the compartmentalization idea. And so most stuff that they do is based on this, and that includes the building of operating systems and stuff. They might have Microsoft build certain components of this operating system that they're going to be making use of, but they might also have Apple develop another section of this operating system. They might have Linksys make something with the net code, but then also use Netgear to build another part of the net code, you know? And by the time everything's said and done, then they put the whole thing together, right? They put all these different components together, patch them together so that they're working and functioning together coherently, and then that becomes their operating system. But no one company knows how to do all the different parts of it at once, unless they've specifically hired that company to be the one to put it all together. Right. See, that's what I'm saying, is that like the security factor of it is probably done primarily by the military itself. Like one of their units that specializes in this kind of thing is the one that actually puts it together. So it's always under their umbrella. You see what I mean? It's always under their roof that the final manufacture of X thing is done. And that way they don't, like, this is especially when it comes to the top secret stuff, you know, this way they don't have anybody that's outside of themselves knowledgeable enough about that thing that they could get access to it, you see, for the security purposes like that. To me, it's very interesting because I think that the more development that's done, in some cases, the worse it becomes. You know what I mean? Like, they've become so compartmentalized that one finger doesn't know what the next finger is doing, doesn't know what the next finger is doing, doesn't know what the next finger is doing. So like the military becomes very unwieldy because it is so compartmentalized that the left foot doesn't know what the right foot's doing. It doesn't have a coherency to it in a lot of aspects, you know? And that's problematic. The X56 HOTUS joystick. Okay, so that one is a pretty decent joystick. I don't know that I would ever use it myself. I might go with something a little bit different, but I'm not too big into the Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think that as a maybe an economical kind of a thing, you could probably do a little bit better. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. So yeah, if you're interested in that one, it'd probably be it'd probably serve pretty well. I've played I play a lot of flight games actually, and enjoy them quite a bit at times. I go through streaks, but Flight Simulator, the 2020 version of it, I haven't had a chance to actually play around with. I think that they're just getting ready to add it to the Xbox Ultimate Gold Pass, which I have. So if they do add it, I definitely want to play it and see how it is. I've got an old stick. I think it's I'm trying to remember, is it Cybertronics? Gosh, it's been a little while since I've even looked at it. It's like 19 buttons and the hat, and I mean it's really nice. I love it. I use it a lot for playing Elite Dangerous and that kind of thing, and it serves really well. But I've had the thing for a really long time. A really long time. I think I even had this one in particular back during the Star Wars Galaxies days. Yeah, I mean that's actually a really good deal for that one. If you could get a hold of one for that price and you can afford it, definitely do. I mean, it's a good stick. Don't get me wrong. But you know, if you need a more economical alternative, there's a lot more that are out there that could probably serve just as well, or about as well anyway. But you know, if you're wanting to go into the Air Force and stuff, and you're really wanting to get a good feel for what things might really be like, I mean, that would be pretty close. You know, that would be pretty close. Shy of actually like building your own machine that has that like built into it as a base, which I mean might be cool. I've seen some people do some really cool builds like that, you know. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that would be really cool. That would be really interesting to use. For me, my fingers wouldn't be able to handle it. That's my main thing. My fingers wouldn't be able to handle it. But that one's the one that comes with like the pedals and everything too, right? That expensive version of it, that's the one that comes with the pedals and stuff too, right? I'm just making sure if I'm remembering that one correctly. Bring up a picture of it here for myself so I can see it. Yeah. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Oh, was that you trying to drop the link? I'd have to get into my Twitch settings and everything, which I can't really do very well while I'm on the air because of my vision. But I just looked it up myself, and that is the one that I'm thinking of. Yeah. I would say that'd be a good deal. Yeah, that'd be a good deal. Oh, Ollie, thank you. Yep. Yeah, I would say if you can find it for that price, definitely go for it. That'd be a good deal for it. You know, if you want to really get yourself in depth into what flight can be like, I mean, it would serve you well for sure. I would say go for it. Again, if you can afford to do it, you know, that's the main thing. If you can't afford it, don't spend that much, but you know, cause you can get by with cheaper. But it's nice. Definitely. Thank you, Ollie. I appreciate it. You're so kind. You're so awesome. How's your arting going? Gotcha. Yeah. I would so love to use VR, man. We got an Oculus Quest 2. We were able to get a hold of one for a month so that I could test it out and see if it would work. And I was so disappointed that my eyes wouldn't work with it. I swore like, oh my God, this would be like perfect, right? Being able to bring the lenses right up to my eyes and everything like that. This has got to work. This got to work, you know? No, it was even worse than trying to see without the VR. Right. Yep. And he's not wrong. I mean, it would definitely be a good, like, give you a good feel for what things can be like. Definitely. Yeah, I would say go for it.
It's so fabulous.
I had to do that one. It is fabulous indeed. So yeah. If you got the opportunity, you know, definitely do. How's your arting going, Ollie? How are things? Are you still working on things over there? Yeah, I was really disappointed about the Oculus. It was something that I had high hopes for, you know, because there was a device that I ran across a long time ago that worked really, really well for me, but the thing cost like $12,000. And that was so disappointing when I heard the price tag on it, because man, I could see with it, you know, like I could see, and I haven't been able to see for years. And yet it was so exorbitantly expensive, you know, just nothing I could do about it. So I was hoping the VR thing would work as a nice alternative, and nope, not at all. It wasn't a matter of the glasses space. The problem was, okay, so again, the way that my vision works is that I see too much instead of too little. So every little thing I see multiple versions of. And what ended up happening was the little circular lines that are on the inside of the lenses were super in my face. Like, and I could not do anything to get those like resolved or to go away. So it was like exacerbated. It was like one little line, you know, the little circular line became like 30 of them in my vision, and it was just like everywhere, and just it was bad. It was really bad. It made me cry. I was so depressed about it. But I tried. I gave it a shot, and that was with glasses or without glasses. It's like, it doesn't matter. Every little pinpoint of light makes 30 or 40 pinpoints of light, and they're all doing their own individual things, you know? So, yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. Hey there, Jambi. Is it Jambi? Jambi? I'm not sure how you wanted your name pronounced, but hello and welcome. I'm very glad to have you here, and I hope that you're having a really good night. So yeah, you can wear the headset with the glasses. You have to, like, with the Quest 2, there was like an expander that came with it that you would put in between like you could attach it to the VR headset itself, and it would allow you to pull the headset further away from your eyes, and then you would just slip the Oculus over the glasses basically, and it would fall into place there. And they held really good. I mean, my glasses had no problem being in them myself, and I've got really big glasses, you know, so it didn't fail as far as the glasses part of it goes, but it's because of the way my eyes work. You know, it's part of my blindness, so yeah. It's unfortunate, but so the device that was $12,000, it was called an e-sight, and it's along the same kind of idea as a VR device where it has two lenses that are close to your eyes so that you can see with it. But this one in particular, it used LED screens, so it was like looking at two very small televisions that are right there in front of your eyes. And then what it had was cameras that were attached to the device itself that basically it became your eyes, you know, so you'd wear the device on your face and the camera that was in there would see for you and bring it so that it's closer to your eyeballs. Instead of me having to use my eyes to see everything, the only thing my eyes had to see was that 2 inches or an inch and a half in front of my face where the lens, where the little camera, the LED screens were. Instead of having to see, 20 feet away, all I had to do was look at that little 1 inch away. But the camera was seeing that 20 feet away from me. So, no, I can't drive. The last time I tried driving, I was with my brother and, we were driving down the road and I was looking at him, and he's like, why don't you look at the road? And I'm like, I can't see the road anymore. And he's like, okay, pull it over. And I haven't driven since. But he didn't realize that one of the things with my condition is that my eyes protrude a lot from what they normally would. Like they're pyramid shaped instead of egg shaped. So my peripheral vision is pretty good. So I was actually using my peripheral vision to see the road as opposed to the front vision thing. So why not, Jam? Just curious, what issues you have with your eyes as far as trying to see goes. I'm always not, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I'm just always curious because I'm a blind guy myself, so like I'm always curious as to what other people have to deal with their own vision, problems and stuff. So yeah, I don't drive. I haven't driven in about, let's see, I think the last time I drove was about 12 years ago or so. I miss it a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's an idea. How I got it was I actually got it through Rent-A-Center. If you're here in America, there's the Rent-A-Centers that are all over the place. You could actually go to Rent-A-Center and rent one for a month or a week or whatever and just see if it would work. And, instead of paying the $200 or $300 or whatever it is for it, you can just, rent it for a week for like $20 and see if it would work for you. And if not, no loss. It's no big deal. So might be an option for you, to consider. But I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you have anything that's along those lines where you're at. I need to grab a drink here real quick. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so my condition is actually a genetic defect. It's been there since birth, but the way that it works is that, like, for your first years of your life, you won't have any effect from it. Starting in about your teenage years, your eyes will start to descend a little bit. Your vision acuity will start to descend some, but then it will sort of hit a plateau and it won't progress any further. Then you can go up to usually it's about the beginning of your 30s. It will descend down then further from there, and you'll go into the end stages of it. I consider myself lucky that mine didn't actually start kicking into that end stage stuff until I was about 38 years old. And so I didn't have it happen at the younger years like other people do with this condition usually. But I did have that plateauing happen during in my teen years, but it wasn't too bad. Like it didn't really affect me all that much, Then when I hit 38 years old, I went from being able to see, drive, do things normally, work, all that kind of stuff to within 6 months worth of time, what I'm left with today. Currently, my vision is 20/30/600 in my good eye with my glasses on. That's insanely bad. Anything that's past about an inch or two in front of my face is washed out to me. unless I squint super hard to be able to see it. So that's what I'm doing to like read your chat. I've got my phone sitting right here in front of me. It's about a foot away. And I have the text. In fact, I can maybe show you here just as an example, just for curiosity's sake. I don't know how well it'll show, but the text is, you can see, super huge. I've got it as big as I can make it. So if I squint really hard, I've got it on a monitor arm basically right here, right? So if I squint super hard, I can get an idea of what the chat text is saying, but it's not easy, and it is very straining on me to do it. But still, I like to talk to you guys. So I'm doing the best I can with it, you know? But I have it on a little gooseneck kind of a arm right here that's also attached to my camera. Sorry about the noise there. My cord hit my microphone arm there, so made a little boom sound. It's kind of like when you have these kind of conditions that are like this, you've got to figure out ways to work around it as best as you can, and this is the best workaround I can do. I tried to do things differently, but what I had to do, like, because I streamed to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time, I have to have the chats come up from both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So what I've done is, on one of my websites that I own, I have set up a catcher for the chat from both chats, and then I can access that web page on my phone to have it, you know, give me the data there. So okay, so Jam, I'm reading your comment here, and I will say that when I was about 8 years old, I was diagnosed originally with a lazy eye, and that was what, like, they didn't catch at that time that it was actually this genetic defect that I have. They just ended up saying it was a lazy eye, and then, you know, kind of all snowballed from there. I just wanted to add that I definitely understand how that is. Schizoaffective have visual, auditory, and tactile hallucinations. Psychotic breaks. I'm afraid during VR. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so I can definitely understand that, and I would say, actually, okay, so my kiddo, well, one of my kiddos, is along those same kind of lines, and when they tried to use the VR, it did definitely affect them. I don't know necessarily to what degree they would like to speak about it, but Ollie, if you're listening, I don't know if you're willing to give a little bit of help here, but Ollie's very open about their condition. You know, they don't mind talking about it if it helps people out. But I know that, like, they were only able to use it for a few minutes, and even in that few minutes, they were definitely, oof, okay, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed here, sensory wise. They're very sensory affected, you know, especially tactily is the big, tactile and auditory is the big one for them. So it may, I will say like, in our experiences, if you've got those kind of issues, then it very well may not be for you. I don't know if I would be willing to try it if you've got those kind of things going on, honestly. The problem is that, like, when you've got the headset on, it does a really good job of cutting off the things that are around you. The one advantage with the one that I had, which was the Quest 2, and I don't know if other headsets have this. The only experience I have with the VR headset is just this one, okay? But one of the options that you could do was that, okay, it had like cameras attached to the front side of it, and you could have a bypass going on, so that instead of seeing like a wall in front of you, Not in games or something like that, but I'm talking on like the baseline operating system that it had. Instead of seeing a wall or something like that in front of you, then you can have it so that you can see the outside world, something like that might be helpful, but only if you are, the Guardian thing, only if you are, not playing a game or something like that. Because if you're in a game, then that doesn't take effect. You'd have to like hit a button to make it so that it switches from the one to the other. The Rift has it. Okay, gotcha. So the Quest 2 had that too, so I didn't know which ones have it or which ones don't. I assumed it was probably at least a part of at least some of them, but again, I don't know. Something like that might be good for you, Jam, but I don't know. Once you're in a game or something like that, I don't know if being cut off so profoundly and hit with such a big sensory dump would be great for you, and I'm again, this is just personal opinion for you, so except for the S, you set up a barrier, and if you get too close, it warns you. If you go outside the barrier, it shows you what's around you. Not sure if that's what you're talking about. So it's similar to that, but it's like it's a button that's on the side of it, or it's also one that you could do like in the menu system, where it will automatically like bypass what's supposed to be displayed on the screen. So I know that it also did it with like the automated thing with the Guardian deal, but it also had the button that you could use too. So between the two, I don't know. That's a hard one though. It's a hard one. Like the only thing I could say would be to, again, like find one that you could borrow or rent or something like that for a day or two and just give it a try, but I would do it on a day where you're feeling strong enough, It is very immersive. Yeah. Exactly. Even without like, and this could be due to my vision issues too, right? So you got to bear that in mind. I don't have like the psychoaffective kind of things. I do sometimes have hallucinations because of the way my eyes work, but it's not like psychological hallucinations. So I'm just making sure to clarify that part of it. But, because of the way my vision is, having that immersion the way that it was a little disturbing to me. And unfortunately, I think Ollie is Ollie's doing some art right now, so they may be a little bit distracted away from things, so they're not talking about it in here. But I'm just gonna try to describe the experiences that they had, So I know that it really affected them, and they have like their big issue is with the auditory and the tactile, So the one thing that they described was that like when you're in it, you've got like there's a little bit of a display, how can I put this? There's like kind of like an icon kind of a thing that'll move with where your hands are. You know what I mean? So you're aware of where your hands are compared to what you're seeing in the game or whatever it is that you're playing. So I think the issue that they had was that that hands being there, but not actually like seeing their own arm and their own hand and that kind of thing got really like overwhelming. So it's like you're cut off, and it's almost like there's an anti-tactile kind of a thing that's happening. So you're for me, I'm very tactily sensitive, right? So one of my issues with it personally was that like I would feel detached from my body while immersed within the headset, to the point where it was like a little bit confusing as to where my arm actually was when I was moving it. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't necessarily recognize where it was as I'm moving it around. So that kind of thing, if you have panic attack issues, that kind of thing actually might trigger a panic attack, honestly. Unfortunately. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything, I'm just a guy who's had the experiences, and I've had, these other issues that I've got personally. This is the effects that we had with it. You the best, but maybe if you're having a day where you're feeling really comfortable, really good, or something like that, you can find somebody to like let you borrow one, or again, you can kind of rent one or something and just experience it for a couple of minutes, and that will give you a really good idea of whether or not it's something that you'll be able to handle long term, I think. VR is insanely immersive and is probably the best we'll have out of the experiences for I would agree with that too. Yeah, it's like for me, the immersion was a little thrown off because of the vision issues. You know what I mean? With the things that I had going on, it was a little bit more difficult for me to get into it, right? But even with that, I still had like these other experiences that were there with it. So. I honestly, I think it would probably be a good idea. If it was me and I had the same kind of issues, I probably would end up feeling the same kind of way. It's weird. It's weird. Like once you get into it, because it cuts off the sound from outside. It cuts off your own, ability to understand where your body is, and that's one of the weird parts with it, is that like, even if you're someone who is hyper aware of your body, it's very easy to like lose track of where it is when you're in VR. It's weird. It really is. But it's just kind of a thing. Every time that I used it, not every time, but nearly every time that I used it, I was sitting in a chair, So like I have muscle, like everything that I do is primarily through muscle memory. And even with that muscle memory in place, I still had issues where I was like thwacking into my desk, even though I knew exactly where it was. Like my hands, I never hit my desk because my hands know where my desk is. You know what I mean? And it had me so disoriented as to where my body was and what I was doing that I was like hitting the desk. I was hitting my monitor, on and on and on. Like, it was weird, like, cause I don't know. I don't experience that kind of a thing under a normal basis, So there you go. Take it for whatever it all is worth, Either way, I will say, I deeply appreciate you being here. The fact that you're here in this moment in time, I think you were meant to be here in this moment in time just to hear that kind of information, because this is a weird topic. Like, we don't normally talk about this kind of a thing, right? So you came in at a weird topic, and it was just something that you were meant to hear, So maybe the universe works in weird ways, right? That's just how I always feel about things. So either way though, I'm grateful that you're here, and that any kind of assistance we can give you to make things better, I hope that you can walk away from it with that. One thing that I do with every video, and I haven't done it this time around, but I want to make sure to do it before I do any kind of stepping away or anything along those lines is concerned, is a little bit of a dad moment. So let me give you guys this one. No matter who you are, And no matter what you're going through, and no matter what anybody else has tried to teach you, you're worthy of being loved. Okay? Don't let anybody ever teach you any different. The only thing that anyone can ever expect of you is that you are the best you that you can be in this moment in time. And that doesn't mean being the best. That just means being the best that you can be right here, right now. Sometimes that is nothing more than being able to get up in the morning and get yourself a bite to eat and go back to bed. Sometimes that's the best you can be at that moment, and that's okay. But that's all that anybody can ever expect of you. So anybody else that expects any different, don't listen to them. Okay? So there you go. My little bit of a dad moment for you guys to grasp hold of and run with, you know? But either way, like I said, I'm very grateful that you guys are here with me. I was feeling a little lonely tonight. I decided to get on in the middle of the night and just come on and have a little bit of fun with everybody and enjoy some company. I don't get out, if I go anywhere, it's because my wife and I have to go somewhere together, so I don't really have anybody that's outside of the home here that I can go hang out with or anything like that, so what do? I'm here. You guys are who I hang out with. You should feel special. But anyways, either way, I hope that you guys are having a really great night. And it's been an interesting one here, for sure. Earlier today, I was doing an art stream, and I was having some fun with it. But it was interesting. Like, I'm really nervous about doing these art streams. This is the second one that I've done. And as a blind guy trying to do art, it's not easy. Like, it really is not easy for me to do. But I figure I've learned some little tricks to help me over the years to be able to do things. So, I'll give it my best shot and see what I can do. And well, I'll try to share it with the people that are out there, because why not? That's the fun thing to do, right? So, it's what I can do. Okay, so Potatoes, I'll hit your question first because that's a little bit shorter. I do play first-person perspective games. One of the games that I play on stream, for instance, is Fallout 76. I've got over 2,200 hours in that game, and the main reason why I can play the game as I do is because I do have that much time in it. I've developed like muscle memory to be able to do things, and in Fallout 76, it has like the VATS kind of thing, so you can hit a button and it'll kind of like aim your gun in the direction of where something is, right? So it's very helpful for me to be able to do that. Any kind of first-person perspective PvP games, I definitely do not do. I am nothing but cannon fodder in that kind of a game. So I refuse to put myself through anything like that. So you're not going to see things like Apex or Valorant or, whatever the big ones are these days. I don't even know because I don't play them, but I don't, because like I'm nothing but an XP farm for the other players. I don't have any fun with them because I'm just going to die, without hesitation. I'm just going to die because I can't take the extra couple of seconds to be able to get the aim correct to be able to hit somebody. And even if I did have that couple of seconds, they're already moved away by the time that I know that they're there. I see like 20 different versions of them on the screen and I don't know which one's the real one to hit, so that's kind of what it boils down to. It's just not fun for me, but I do like first person's perspectives games. It just kind of depends on the ones that I'm doing. I hope that makes sense. There are some that I get into and then some that I have difficulties with. I'm willing to try pretty much every game that's out there in some kind of way, but I have to be able to scale the UI in order for me to be able to see it. So like New World, I got into the closed beta for, and I played it for a few hours on stream the other night. You can't adjust the UI in it at all, like not even a little bit. And so because of that, like it makes it very difficult for me to play that game. It's very disappointing to me because I was really looking forward to it. And you would think that a AAA game put out by a pretty big software developer like Amazon Studios, they've pumped a lot of money into it. You would think that they would have something in mind of accessibility for people that maybe don't have the normal vision that people have. You know what I mean? But it's not there. So, okay, let me go back here to Jam. Sure. Okay. So, let me describe to you what my issue is, and maybe that'll help you to get an idea of what I'm working with. The glasses are here because I've been wearing glasses since I was about 7 years old, and they're more of a comfort item than anything. Basically, they're Fisher-Price toys to me at this point in time. The only thing that they do is help to reduce the blur a little bit, but the blur is not where my problem comes in. So, the genetic defect that I have has made my eyes pyramid-shaped instead of egg-shaped, and I also have a massive amount of scarring on my eyes as well. So, one of the problems that I encounter, and I'm going to see if I can maybe find, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Give me one moment. You're going to see a black screen here just for a minute, but I'm going to try to find like an example of what I deal with. Okay, maybe this one will come through. I'll try it. Nope, it doesn't want to show. Shoot. Well, darn it. Sorry, give me a second here. I'm sorry. I'd have these just stored, you know what I mean? But I don't. There, okay, maybe I can use it this way. I beg your patience. Sorry, guys. I'll be there in just a quick second here. Okay, there we go. So this is like a pretty good example of what me looking at the moon looks like. You see the moon in the center, but then there are multiple versions of it superimposed over each other. And there's a lot of blur. There's a lot of waviness. There's a lot of like streaking and all of that kind of stuff, right? And then what happens with this is that each individual pinpoint of light that is around causes that exact same thing to happen. So, for instance, I have the phone right here, right? And the whole phone is nothing but one big version of that. I have my monitor right here. The whole monitor is nothing but one big version of that. And it also, like even the mouse moving on the monitor is causing that too. Every individual little pinpoint of light, there's a little bit of light right here. There's a little bit of light right here. There's a little bit of light right here. There's a little bit of light right here on the microphone. There's light, there's light over here on the other edge of things. Every little individual pinpoint becomes that big, wavy, superimpositioned mess, right? So the more light there is, the worse it is on me. And the more things that there are around, the worse it is on me too. So I can do things a little bit better when I'm looking at my monitor because it's not three-dimensional. Okay. Yes, you might be looking at a 3-dimensional image on the monitor, but the monitor itself is flat, right? So there's no depth to it. The more depth there is, the worse it is for me too. I don't see in 3 dimensions. You know, it's all just a big mess. So I always liken it to me like as if there's a wax museum that has been melted in a fire where everything is just, you know, all streamed together and bundled up and bunched up and all that kind of stuff. It's like all melted together. That's basically what I see the world as. On top of that, each time my pulse beats, the whole world pulses with it. So every beat of my heart, the world is going, ooh, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out. Then on top of that, every time I blink my eyes, the whole world conglomerates with it. Like the whole structure of my eye is very weak. My corneas are super thin. So there's no structure in place that, okay. So like normally when you blink, your whole eye compresses together and then comes back up again when you open your eyes. So it's like it bounces right back, right? Well, mine does that, but it's like I blink and it'll take it a longer period of time to actually like come back up to normalcy, right? Or at least what my normal is. So all of those things combined together make it so that my vision is crap. Really what it comes down to. It's crap. I see too much instead of too little. You see, there's too much information coming in and my brain can't process it well enough to be able to make any kind of coherence out of it. The contrasting thing, like, so with your eyes, Jam, is it, okay, so like, do you have a thing where the more light there is, the more sensitive you are to it? Like it interferes even more with the vision? Or is it just that the contrasting is what you're having the most difficulty with? I'm asking because I know some people have issues as far as like the contrasting kind of thing is concerned, and it's usually because their corneas are starting to become like thinner, you know, so they're more sensitive to each photon of light that's coming in. It causes like your brain to not be able to interpret it correctly. Sounds a little weird, but so potatoes, honestly, it's kind of aggravating to me as well. I've been a big advocate, even before my vision issues became a big problem. I've always been a real big advocate for developers spending just a little bit of extra time making sure that they are making their games more accessible. And I can understand like a lot of the older games that somebody might play might not be that, right? But they didn't really have that kind of person in mind when they were creating those games, 15, 20 years ago. Nowadays, however, it is, I think, much more important for people to really start recognizing that people like me like to play games. We exist, and if developers spent just a little bit of extra time making sure that we are able, like we're capable of playing the games in the way that we need to, I think not only would it be a good PR move on the part of the developers, because, there'd be a lot less complaints, number one, but number two, it opens up a whole new world of people who will be willing to buy that game too. It makes it so that it's just that much more available for a bigger customer base. There are a lot of people that are like me, and that are people like that can't move their fingers as well as they normally would be able to, or they can't move their arms quite the way that they could. They can't hear quite as well. All of these different things, right? We exist. So it doesn't take that much more development time to make it so that the UI can be scaled in such a way, and it wouldn't interfere with anybody else's gameplay either. I mean, that's part of the thing, right? I understand why like aim assists and that kind of thing aren't really something that they can do in PvP games, for instance, but why make it so that that's not available in a PvE game where what I do has no impact on another player? You see what I mean? I hope that all that makes sense. Okay, so Jam, yeah, definitely, you're going to want to definitely get your eyes checked for like the light sensitivity. I wonder if you're having like either your corneas are thinning or you're having like scars form on your corneas, because both of those kind of things can cause what you're talking about there. I definitely know how that is because my eyes are both thin and scarred, and between the two, it's like, oh God, any kind of real light sources give me such bad, like I exist with a low level headache all the time, like 24/7. There is always a headache there because of how my eyes are. But I've learned, like me going out into sunlight or me turning on the light that's in our room, above my head, all that kind of stuff, right? The more light there is, oh God, it's intense. It gets painful really quickly for me. So I kind of live like a mushroom. I kind of live like a mushroom. I just sit here in the dark as much as I possibly can. It's why I'm up at night. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning here. I'm a night person because me existing during the daytime is literally painful. So couldn't make out shapes or anything like that at all. I guess to get the obvious question out of the way first, and I'm expecting the answer is going to be no, but have you ever done any drugs? I mean, you don't have to answer that, right? But I do know that like certain substances will actually make that kind of thing happen. Yeah, I didn't figure, but just making sure to get the obvious out of the way first, right? I do know that like as human beings, we do have moments in time where we do have like lapses, right? But some people are more prone to like those hypnotic states. It's called a hypnagogic state, than others. And certain things will trigger that hypnagogic state to kick in more or less than others. For me, a hypnagogic state would always kick in when I would drive long distances, especially if they're straight roads. They call it road hypnotism, but it's a hypnagogic state. The hypnagogic state, just for edification, is the same kind of state that's done on you when you are like on the stage in front of the hypnotist and they're making you feel like a chicken or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the hypnagogic state. So it's real easy to like slip into that state for some people, depending on what they're doing. Sometimes different sounds will trigger it. Sometimes different like visual clues will trigger it, like certain wavelengths of light and that kind of thing can cause that kind of thing to happen. So hey, Sav, welcome back again. Yeah, I'm always up late, man. I'm always up late. Welcome, though. I'm glad to have you here again. Glad to have you here. Okay, so potatoes. In that kind of a case, if it's when you're standing up or sitting down, you might actually want to look into your blood pressure. One of my kiddos has a disorder called POTS. It's a postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. what happens is if they go from either laying to sitting or sitting to standing, their blood pressure will drop and they will actually go into like a faint, but they don't actually hit the ground. It's just their whole everything completely shuts down. You know what I mean? And it'll last sometimes seconds or even a minute. And they have to they're just standing there trying to make sure that they don't fall. They've endured it for years. So you might want to actually look into your blood pressure. Check your diet, make sure you're getting enough fluids. That'd be the big thing. If you do have something like that going on, you could try doing the solution that the cardiologist basically has told us with them, which is to drink a lot of fluid and take in as much salt as you possibly can. And between the two, it'll help to elevate your blood pressure to normal levels. So might be worth a shot. Don't take me as a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but it might be worth a shot to see if it'll actually help you out with it. So Jam, your eyes go cross-eyed by default. I know you mentioned earlier about trauma when you were younger. So, maybe that is also having an effect too. Do you think maybe there's any kind of PTSD or anything like that that's going on with it that could be causing some of the issues too? I'm just asking because, again, I do have a lot of PTSD as well from abuse that I've been through. And I know at least some of the things that I have to deal with are related to that I'm trying to work through too. I'm just throwing out ideas though. Like I'm not trying to answer anything. I'm just trying to throw out ideas that might help you guys out. So you can manually adjust your eyes to be able to read or really see anything that has detail. So can you, are you able to like control your eyes to make them like go separated a little bit or to come back inwards or anything along those lines? I'm asking because I know that I have like my left eye, is crossed slightly. And it's because of all of the squinting that I've had to do with that particular eye. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'll take my glasses off here so that you can see. But I actually have to squint so much, so frequently that I have a divot in my forehead right here. Like this, the muscle structure right here is so strong that it's like there's a divot right here. My wife always makes fun of me with it, but it's like one of those things. So I know that like the cross, I know the cross was there when I was younger. Like I said, I was diagnosed with a lazy eye in that eye when I was much younger, but I know like over the years since I've had to do so much more squinting with this eye closed, that it's kind of drifted to the side here too. So if so, I'm sorry for you for that one, man. That's a really hard one. That one really sucks. So, okay, let me see what Potatoes is saying here. Wasn't sitting to standing or sitting. At the time, I'd been walking for a few hours already, and then the other was when I was standing around in my kitchen. Been standing for many minutes before then. Again, I don't know how much of it would be actually vision related though. Like, do you remember, is it only affecting your vision, or are you feeling like you're not even able to like think straight or anything like that during those time periods? That'd be the big question, I guess, to go through. Again, I'm asking because like the blood pressure thing can happen whether, like I said, the one that she deals with is just it's the postural version of it, where it's from sitting to standing or standing to sitting and that kind of thing. So that's what triggers it for them. But there are other versions of blood pressure problems that it doesn't matter whether you're standing, walking, sitting, or whatever. It'll still affect it. It'll still kick in when it wants to. Gotcha, Jam. Okay. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I wonder if you can maybe train yourself to do it again. Have you ever like tried to retrain it or anything like that? And I wonder too, I know sometimes with glasses, they can make the glasses, like if you have that kind of a thing going on, they can make your glasses like make it so that your eye is going to like train itself to the muscle structure kind of works a little bit differently in the eye, you know? But I know even as people get a little bit older and stuff, you know, the muscle structure in the eye itself kind of breaks down some too for some people. So, either way, potatoes, most definitely you should talk to your parents about it and let them know what's going on with it. That would be a really good idea, just to make sure that they're aware that something is happening with it, so that they can get you checked out. Doing things, you know, like when it comes to your vision, trust me, guys, don't mess around with it. Make sure you guys get it checked as soon as you possibly can, because, you know, you don't want to go blind. It sucks. It sucks losing your vision. So it's been a little while, probably 7 years or so then. 6 years. Yeah. It might be a good idea to see if there's, again, something going on with the corneas. I wonder actually if you might have something going on like I do, you know, with the keratoconus. There's other disorders that are similar to it, you know what I mean? But like I said, mine didn't kick in until my teenage years, up into my, you know, early 20s, and then it hit a plateau and I was okay for a while, you know, and then it went downhill when I hit 38. So it might be something along those lines. I don't know. You know, maybe you just randomly found somebody that's got the same kind of issue that you do. If so, that'd be kind of curious. I'd be interested in knowing that one. The disorder that I've got, it's not particularly rare, but there are different varying degrees of it, and there are kind of like subversions of it. You know what I mean? Like some people experience where their eyes will cloud up completely, and then there are people that are like me. One of the issues I deal with is something called a high drop, which fluid from the inside of my eye will leak through the scars on my eye, and it'll cause intense pain, and it'll feel like there's a stone in my eye for hours and hours, and I can't do anything to get rid of it. Oh, no problem for the subject changes, potatoes. It's all good. Sea mines. So, kind of depends on if it's old tech or new tech. There's different versions of mines that work in the ocean. But primarily they're used, they're kind of triggered by, proximity. Some of them are like, some of the older ones are done through touch, like the ship or sub or something like that would have to touch the mine in order to move it in such a way that it would trigger the detonation device on the inside of it to make it explode. Whereas some of the more modern ones actually use proximity locators through like very small limited sonar, so to speak, to see like if something is close by. And if it detects like that motion, you know, motion detectors, if it detects that motion there and it's of a big enough mass, then it will cause it. So like a fish or a shark swimming past it isn't going to trigger it because it's not a big enough mass to allow that to happen. But if it's a big enough mass, then it will cause the detonation to trigger. So yeah, I would say LensCrafters actually was who no, I'm sorry, Lange Optical, which was kind of more of a localized regional thing, was the one that diagnosed me at first. But make sure that if you go there, make sure that you see an optometrist, and they can give a good check. Like what they'll do if it's something like with mine, the first indication is the topography of your eye will start to show the plateaus and the ridges forming. So they might put your eye against a computer, like a measuring device basically, that will measure the topography of your eye, and they can tell then through that whether you have like are at the beginning stages or whatever the case may be of this disorder. So, make sure you mention, like, you can mention to him, hey, I got this information from a guy who's got keratoconus, and he thought maybe it would be worthwhile getting checked out. It might be worthwhile doing. Let me give you a little bit of information here. I'm going to drop a little bit of thing here into the chat. That right there is, nope, wrong one. Hold on. This one should be it. Let me make sure. Yeah, there you go. So that, that's a wiki link for this particular disorder, that you can get a little bit of info on. So if you want to like maybe take that and run with it, see what cues you, it might be worthwhile, Okay, that might have to do with your phone. I know, like, if I look it on my phone, it kind of messes it up a little bit, but I think some devices it doesn't quite show up well enough on, unfortunately. Not much I can do about that, though. Just the unfortunate foibles with doing streaming in 1080p. So I hope that all of this has been helpful to you guys. I'm all about trying to make sure that people are living the best lives that they can. And sometimes that means, trying to figure out ways to get around the problems that you have. You know what I mean? But either way, I'm very grateful for you guys being here with me, and talking to me and all that kind of good stuff. It's always very good for me to know that there are people that are out there, that are willing to come on in, spend a few moments. I have fun with it. But I will say I am starting to get a little bit tired, and I'm getting a little bit hungry, and I've got a sandwich that's waiting for me, and it's been calling my name for hours now. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. For those of you guys that are not following me over on Twitch, make sure you guys hit that follow button. I'm on here every day, doing all kinds of different things. I would love to have you guys along for the ride. Come be part of my little family here. If you're over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You guys will get told when I come out with something new. And again, I come out with all kinds of new things all the time. I'd love for you guys to come on over and be a part of this little community that I'm trying to create here. So.
Hello. Make your best friends.
I love that little ditty. I've just found that a couple of days ago. I love it. Jam, thank you so much for hitting that follow. I really appreciate it. So what can I have at the ending here? Okay, so here you go. Here's a great little bit of dad advice. This is a piece of dad advice my dad gave me. Okay, if you're not the lead dog, you're always seeing the same scenery. You're always looking at an asshole. So I'll leave you with a really bad dad pun kind of thing there for you guys. Anyways, thank you again for being here. I deeply appreciate all of it. And, come on back. I'll be back here again, probably in about 12 hours or so. I'm on here multiple times every day for hours. I was streaming, I think, 7 hours today, I think total. Oh my goodness. I have no life. Anyways, much love to you guys. Thank you for being here as always. Until next time, keep safe out there. Have fun. And we'll talk to you again later.
Incoming customer detected.
Keep your eyes open, boys.
We need to have a serious talk.